Hello there. I thought I should record this one since what I'm doing here is I'm adding one of those radio button controls to this dialogue. And if you've never worked with radio buttons, then you might want to at least take note of some of the peculiarities and things that you have to be aware of when making a radio button control. The first thing being that although there are two, I've added two things using the toolbox here, two of these. The two of them together, we want the two of them together to act as one unit. And I believe I've got it set up correctly. They're both on automatic, and the return value is going to be, in my case, like 1 or 2. One or the other has been selected. There won't be any non-selected scenario because I'm going to rule that out. That is, when this will initially be disabled unless this thing is clicked. Right down more about here. Something like that. And if I select this, then these will become enabled. I could disable them, I suppose, just to look at. Enabled. Now, the thing about these radio controls is there's one controls all of the rest of them. Where is enabled? No, disabled. Now, if I put this as true, I think the controlling one in this case happens to be the discard. Alright, now I hope I get this right. I used one before actually in another project in here. Where did I use that? Pretty sure I did. Maybe not. It wasn't here. Oh, it's in another. Okay, it's not in this list. So what I'm going to do is right now is I'm going to pause this and try and get this working. Resume when I've got it working. Okay. Okay. I got it working. I assume that that's correct. That it might not be. Well, this is not the final version of what I'd want anyway. But see, I had to steal some code from elsewhere. This DDX radio function. This is the maybe it was taken initially from NFC. This is to either put or retrieve a value for a radio control. Think of the two buttons as a single control, which can have a value, in this case, 1 or 2. Now, I could add more buttons to that resource. hello. Hang on a sec. Required a double click. Okay, I'm going to add an extra button to this so we can have 3 volumes. I'll just copy this one. So I discard 1. Now this whole thing is to be considered as 1 unit. Okay. And one of these things is the controller of the whole thing. And the one that controls will have the group property set to true, and none of the others will. And that. Okay. So those will be false for a group. I know there's a little thing in there. Now I get it visible again. I hate those little alignment things. Alright, well anyway. Okay, so now to see that they're all part of the same unit, you can see that their behavior. One is turning off when another turns on. Okay, I could have 2 groups of these things, right? And they would act independently. Now the way it works is, first you have to be careful. In making sure, and this took me a long time to figure out, so this is valuable information. Edit view code. Oh, it may not appear because I haven't compiled yet. Okay. Now it's okay to leave this like this, but I would prefer to put them together in the list here. The controlling item has to be first in this list. Okay. If I take this and put it down here, it's not going to work. It has, even though it's the same list of controls, this one has to appear first in order for it to work properly. That's the main thing to remember. And this is the one that has to have the group style, and alternately you could have tab stop, which I have. The value of the whole thing depends on which button was selected, and that's going to be 1, 2, or 3 depending on which of these buttons. Now the way this DDX thing works is there's getting and setting. If you're getting, you start with the handle to window of the controlling radio button, alright? And here are some assertions. It has to be a group, and it has to be a radio button type object. And then now all we're doing here, I'm making up the value really. Actually 0 must be it must be 0 to 2 in this case, not 1 to 3. You keep walking through getting the next window. Yeah, here. Just like when you walk through a list of windows, starting with your current window, you do get next, okay? And you keep doing that as long as you don't see anything with a group style. So you might walk through the entire dialog, right? But it doesn't matter. Only the radio buttons that appear will have any effect according to this logic. If we are trying to get the value, now these are essentially buttons. We send a message, get check, and see if that returns non-zero. Non-zero means that the thing is checked, and so the value which is what we're to return, will be equal to I button, which is something that's being incremented every time we find a new radio control. Now this is the get set. So this code has to do with radio. If we hit a radio button, right? Sorry. All of this. Otherwise, we just ignore. Right? We just print out a warning message. If we're getting and we find that the one of the buttons is checked, then we set that as the return button, return value, and this is just an incrementing by one thing. If we're in the set mode, right? So suppose we want to set the value of this thing to 0, 1, 2. We walk through the same way, and if the button number indicated is the value we specified, then we set it thing to check, and that's all there is to it. So now I've currently got it set, so it's not going to come up. So this is set to 1. Put this back to 0. We don't know what this is. What I'll do is now really for enable and disable I shouldn't have to indicate all of the buttons, but that's something that I can add to this function, right? But I'll turn this into one of my common controls and take care of that. So we've got to add a third thing, whatever that last one was called, and it shouldn't matter what it's called, because as you loop through, you pick them all up. It doesn't matter what their identifiers are, but it happens to be radio 3. So for the time being, I have to do that. In the future, I won't, because I'll fix it. So I've disabled all of these, and that means I have to do the same thing in enabling. Okay, that's on destroy. If we get to click, I want to enable all 3 of these things to the state of the checkbox. That's the thing I already have. I already have an auto thing for that. Now let me just say we can ignore this for now, and we'll just set the value. Ignore this. Ignore this. I'm going to set the value to first 0, and then we'll do 1 and 2, and at the end here, I won't do this part. Yeah. I just want to show you that it'll set the value according to this parameter. False, stupid Boolean argument. It's not. False means put. from int to int when it's true. I'll fix all this up. I just want to show you that this one's going to set the first of the group to the select or the selected one, and 1 and 2 will do the other ones. But I should only ever need to reference this value. This here is wrong. You know, this function that could have an enable. No. Yes, yes. Okay, so it set the first one. Now if I set this to 1, it should set the second one. It's really quite simple, but you can get really messed up if you don't realize that the order of appearance of those controls in the resource file itself matters. You can't just willy-nilly add them in any way you want. And it doesn't matter the tab order or whatever is irrelevant. The relevant thing is which one appears first, second, or whatever. So that set this one. And if I put 2, it should set the other one. Now I could walk through it in this case. I'm going to do that. Well, not yet. DDX, Dynamic Data Exchanges, MFCs, wording for, I don't know. Okay, so I'll do this one stepping through the code. Okay, so value is set to 2, and the control we just pick up from the identifier passed in. Now it has to be group, and it has to be radio button. The first one has to be. The rest should not be, because the loop quits as soon as we find another group. Alright, now I button is just a counter as we're going through and discovering radio buttons. If we discover one, then this will get increased. Now, are we getting or are we setting? We're setting. Now, we're going to set this to true if my button equals I value, so this one is not going to be checked. Increment button, get window next, and we're continuing the loop as long as we don't find something that has a group style. That's how you can have 2 of these controls. The next one will have another group style. Okay, again, 1, is that equal to 2? No. Go to the next. And this one will be set. The I button's actually out of range at this point, but we won't. It's still going to keep going around, and we're going to get these, skipping non-radio button. And this is the name of the item that was found, and it's considered to be within the group because we haven't hit a new group. In fact, everything's in the group, but we're going to run out of stuff. so it worked, and that one got selected. So that's, oh yeah, oh, God knows what I put in the registry. Nothing, okay. Oh yeah, I commented everything else. So that's how a radio button works. Now the next thing for me to do is to take this code and to turn this radio thing into a control, one of my controls, and give it a simpler interface, you know, like set value and get value, right? Just like this these checkbox things. I get a notification for a checkbox, and I can get its state, right? It'll have actually a similar interface to a checkbox, except instead of 2 states, it can have any number of states. If I wanted to add another set of radio buttons, let's say I just copy these 3. And add another one. They'll all have different values. I mean, unique values. Doesn't matter what they are. This will act because one of them is a group. This won't have any effect on the other group. Right? This is an automatic thing, and it doesn't matter how many other controls there are. None of them are group things, so they don't do anything. It's only when you hit a group thing that it starts counting. Okay, so there you go. That's how to do a radio button, and I'll fix it up and make it nicer, maybe as an addendum to this. See ya.